listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Welcome to Second Wind. As usual, it is wonderful to have you here with us today. You know, this transition stuff is kind of tough sometimes. And it's when you hang out and find people that can support you through the transition, whatever it is, divorce, death, just changing life. You need a support system. That's why Second Wind was created. I wanted you first to get to know who you are. That's step one. Got to go there. And I wanted to inspire you with big dreams, to dream big. I mean, big. I'm not talking just, I wish. I want big. And to do that, you need to be informed about the possibilities of the second wind experience. Now, I do this through my guests that are absolutely magnificent because they are fellow journeyers that have gone through their own transition and found fabulous lives. And so I ask them to share their stories and their knowledge so that you can make your journey easier. And let me repeat, it is about connecting with others and getting support through others. Now, our topic today is, oh my gosh, you're going to love this. Finding love at midlife with science as your guide. I am so excited to introduce Dr. Dwayna Welsh. And she is the original Love Factuality author and coach, known for using social science to solve real-life relationship issues. She has taught at universities in Florida, California, and Texas across 20 years of her life, and contributed to NPR, PBS, Psychology Today, and numerous other outlets like podcasts and videos. Her first book, Love Factuality, 10 Proven Steps from I Wish to I Do, is now out globally in 5 languages, in audio, ebook, and paperback, with 7 other factuality titles now out, which we will be talking about those, sharing with you. She is an expert for Paired, the couples relationship app. Her client practice is global via Zoom and other technologies. For more information, you can find this on her website. You can get free content. She has an awesome website. She has actually copies of her 7 books, and you can read 1 chapter of 2 of them. I saw it. So I went immediately and wanted to download those. She lives in Oregon these days, where she is happily married and has a son. No, she's not. No, we're changing that. We will talk about that more. And with family very close to me in Texas, I look forward to meeting her in person. So welcome, Dr. Dwayna Welsh. Did I make a little poo-poo faux pas?
Well, it's Love Factually, which is a kind of a play on the movie Love Actually. And I am so happy to be here. It's lovely to meet you. I really enjoyed our talk where we figured out that my dad and his partner both live a stone's throw away from where you are, which means that I am frequently not far from where you are. I go and visit them.
Yeah. Well, I hope you'll put me on that list sometime.
I certainly will.
Come see.
And I'm not happily married. I tried to change that aspect of the website. I'm not married at all. I wrote 2 books about the wonderful man who was my husband, and then he started drinking really heavily. I know. Yeah, we're not married anymore. And that was the best choice for me. And, you know, I love that you have this podcast. I love that you call it Second Wind, because you know who Margaret Mead was? She was the anthropologist who she
Yes.
studied various island cultures. And there was once somebody interviewing her who asked her about her 3 failed marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did she get offended. She said, I have been married 3 times and not one of them was a failure.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So part of what I love about your podcast is the idea that just because you are getting your second win doesn't mean that what happened the first time was a failure. So
No.
there are things that do not work forever that were workable at the time and were really good at the time. And I view my past marriages that way. The marriage to my son's father, which ended because of his addictions, and the marriage to Vic, which ended because of his addictions. I am moving forward with men who don't have addictions. And
That's good.
yeah, but the fact of the matter is you can find love at any age, and I'm here to argue for why that's a good idea and how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So many people, and I have to raise my hand. I'm one of those contributors to pulling away, because the relationship that we created from my first marriage, um, and only marriage, was almost 20 years ago. And although I have had a relationship in there, but I've really, there's kind of like I kind of built a, a safety fence around me. Honestly, I kind of wanted a little protection because I was so caught off guard in my first marriage. And so, guard by the partner that I chose. But then I do know you learn lessons even from those building stones, building. So anyway, I don't think I'm unusual. I think I've got several friends that are right in the same category, same area.
Yeah, not every relationship that's valuable has to be a marriage, and not every valuable relationship has to be permanent. And I'm certainly
Right.
not here to talk people into looking for a marriage who don't want one. If people
Yeah.
are happily single or happily partnered, but they don't want to be married, good for them.
Right. Yeah. Yes, Tyler, Texas is slowly opening to that, but some areas that's a little more of a challenge than some of the smaller East Texas towns, and other places too. But I like the idea of 2 people being committed to each other without a document that says they are official. I do like that. I think there's a lot of freedom in that, and trust and love. But tell us about how important love, being in love, is to us.
Well, we all understand that when we're infants, that our lives literally depend on love.
Yeah.
That without the loving attention of our parents or caregivers, if for some reason our parents can't be there for us, we will not survive.
Mm-hmm.
What fewer people until the last few decades, even in science, understood was that never stops mattering. Love never, ever stops mattering. And that we all need attachment and the bond of somebody who cares about us throughout life. And by need, I mean, we tend to view this as absolutely essential for the very young and as optional as we get older. Like it's just icing on the cake of life. It's the cake of life, and science can't be more clear about that.
Right.
What I mean by that is, for example, being single is, especially for men, associated with poorer health outcomes than being a 1 pack a day smoker. It's associated with 6 times greater odds of death every single year if a person is single than if they are married.
Really?
Yes. And cohabiting doesn't cut the mustard on this one. I know you just said that you'd like it if people could just, maybe cohabit or have a permanent partnership, and marriage shouldn't matter on a piece of paper. Marriage is not just a piece of paper. If it were just a piece of paper, everybody would do it. The reason people don't want to get married again is they're terrified.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they think, what if it didn't work out? And the idea I want to introduce to you here is, what if it did? What are you giving up? Not you personally, Joyce, but what are people in general giving up by deciding that it can't work?
Yes.
Or acting as if they've made that decision. What if it were possible to do dating a new and different way so that if you made that commitment, it would work? What if, as happened to me 7 years into my marriage with Vic, what if they do change? He did not have an addiction issue when I met him.
Really?
He did not. No, that developed after he retired. So what if you're with somebody and you make the big commitment and they substantively change in a deal-breaking way several years in? What if you understood that you would survive it? What if you knew how to exit the relationship in such a way that you could preserve your dignity, your self-respect, your place in the world, and that you would be okay? You know, this isn't hypothetical for me. I had 7 books out on relationships, all of which thanked my then husband at the time that I got divorced. That was not easy.
Yes.
That was embarrassing.
Yes.
I had more writing on that more publicly than most people. And yet here I am talking to you, being a happy person. What if you understood that most of the time, if you date this new and different way, that it's going to last forever? But if it didn't, you will recover. I think people keep themselves out of the game because they don't believe in their own resilience. They don't believe in the goodness of men, and they don't really believe in the possibility of love. And those are mistakes. Science says those ways of thinking are mistakes.
I'm interested in your word science. You're using science differently than it's used in maybe some other relationship person, coach. And so explain to me why you do that. Why you put the science in there.
Well, I'm an empiricist, which means that I want to do what works. All empiricist means is I want to do, it means an empiricist does what demonstrably works as opposed to what people say works. Like, I'm not comfortable asking the culture around me or my friends or my family for dating advice. I want to know, are there people who have actually made a scientific study of this? For example, are there people who have done a 40-year study of happy couples and unhappy couples from the beginning of their marriage and seen what worked and what didn't, and done analyses with data, i.e. math, and figured out what predicted from the very beginning who was going to be happy and who wasn't? And can you create a therapy based on that that will help the unhappy become happy? Well, the answer to that is all yes. And see, when I was a young woman, I'm now 52, but when I was in my 20s, I was getting my PhD in developmental psychology at the University of Florida, and I got my heart pretty badly broken. And I thought, wow, for a smart girl, I'm behaving pretty dumb. Why am I doing this? Well, I was doing it because I was listening to what the culture around me told me. I was listening to what family and friends told me. Here's some of the really bad advice that I was following. Just follow your heart. Look, your heart, that's fine, but you got to use your head too. Go ahead and go to bed with them right away. That's terrible advice if what you want is a lifelong partner, it turns out. I'm very liberal and open-minded. I'm also an empiricist. That particular brand of liberal, open-minded advice is terrible advice.
Mm-hmm.
It does not usually work. And I'm all about what usually works. I want to make it clear. Science tells us what will happen to most people most of the time, given a particular circumstance. Nothing will tell us what works for every person every time. You're making a bet. You're playing the odds here. I want to make that really clear. But you know what? You're playing the odds anyway. And the odds are, if you just go to bed with them right away, you're going to be Miss Right Now, never Mrs. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
I mean, we can talk about why it's just the way it is. But again, I'm an empiricist. What works for most people most of the time? What works for most people most of the time is get to know the person, find out if they have what you need. That means you have to know what you need. It means you have to unswervingly be dedicated to what you need. It means you have to break up with them instantly the moment you determine that they're not what you need. But get to know that first and only have sex with them after, again, this is only if you want a long-term relationship or commitment.
Right.
If you don't want a long-term relationship or commitment, do what you want. But if you want a long-term relationship or commitment, do what I just said. And then after you know all that, and after this is trending serious, and after this man has told you he loves you, then go to bed with him. And I know people who say, but what if the sex is terrible after all that? I'm in deep by then. Oh, honey, have you ever kissed somebody and the kissing was terrible and the sex was good? I know the answer to that. The answer is no. If the kissing was terrible, the sex is never good. And have you ever had the kissing be amazing and the sex be terrible? Again, I already know the answer to that. It's no.
Okay.
If the kissing is amazing, the sex is going to be just fine. If you can work that out, the sex is going to be just fine because you're going to work it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You've said a lot. I'm kind of like wailing here.
I probably said too much all at once.
Well, no. We'll catch up. Well, I can think of all sorts of, so where do you take somebody? I know you'd coach as part of your practice. You help people. I know you also have your books. And so do they normally, when a person reads about you and gets introduced to you, do they normally, I mean, I think you would be awesome as a coach. Because one thing I think we all need to know is we need to be honest. You know, we need the hard facts put on us, not the fuzzy ones. We need to go, no, you're missing this. You need to listen to me. And that's kind of hard sometimes to deliver it. Probably not for a therapist, but I think sometimes it's hard to receive it. And so you must be talented in that way of delivering a solid, strong guidance to somebody to help them open their doors to thinking a different way.
Well, I certainly hope that I am. You know, I remember what it's like to not know these things and to be sad and to be lonely and to feel lost and to want love in my life and feel clueless as to how to get it and to feel worried that, oh, I've got a pretty good life. What if I welcome the wrong person in and they totally ruin it and I can't ever recover?
Yes. Yeah.
So I do remember that. And I think that remembering helps me to be compassionate because I really do have compassion. I'm not a fact machine that just says, here are the facts, go do it. Bye. So I understand people need a lot of emotional support through this. And, you know, I also do 100% of what I teach other people to do. And I don't mean I did it in the past. I mean, I do it right now. I decided, for example, here's a thing that I know. The busiest month for online dating is January every year. If you are looking for love and you're not online in January, you're missing out.
Really?
And here's another thing I know. These websites only really promote you for the first month. So just get a 1-month membership and have them promote you really hard and then take a break.
Oh.
So I made a deal with myself.
Mm-hmm.
December 31st, I was going to put my ad up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to give it 1 month. And I wrote an ad. I write ads for people all the time. And if you're on one of those sites that doesn't let you post an ad, they only let you post 15 words. I still write an ad because you show it to them after they show an interest in you. And you say, is this you?
Mm-hmm.
The ads I write are never about you. They're always about the person you're looking for, because I want the man that you're writing about to read your ad and your ad to be so specific. He says, oh my gosh, she is writing about me. I have become convinced this is not a numbers game. This is a knowledge game.
Right.
It's
Now,
about knowledge and the ability to apply it. And so I took my own advice. So when you say, well, is it, it must take some doing to meet people where they are, I think it's basically
right.
what you were saying.
Yeah.
I know how to do that because not only do I do it all the time, but I have recent experience, as in December 31st. And I met my sweetie pie 7 days after I posted an ad that should have had his picture underneath it. We've been together 8 months and we're extremely happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Well, I think sometimes women or people, I don't want to just say women, men or women, um, really are kind of, they're not quite sure what they want. They want love, they want a happy relationship, but there's more to that than just saying that. You actually take them down into maybe what they look like. Tell us what might be a typical um, letter. I know one of your books is donated to writing a dating profile. However, you say you write a lot of them for people. So, what is really in there? What does somebody need to do to actually get prepared? Is that in part of the book? Probably.
Oh, yes. It's in this particular exercise that I'm going to guide you through right now is in nearly everything I write, because it's so important. You're so right that this sounds like something Yogi Berra might have said. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there?
Right. Yeah.
Just knowing that we want love really turns out not to be enough. We need to really drill down and know what that looks like for us. Part of this is borrowing my faith that there are many good men looking for partners.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women feel like, from experience, that there aren't any good men.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would suggest is most of those women were taught, as I was, and believed, as I did, common mating myths, such as love is enough. Love is not enough. It's necessary but insufficient. We need love, but we also need respect, kindness. And I don't mean kindness and respect when we're feeling good. I mean, we need somebody whose ethic is when he's had a bad day, he's disappointed in us. He's still kind and respectful as a way of being, not because he thinks you deserve it at that moment.
Right.
We have to have similarity of values. The things we really care about need to be pretty similar. That doesn't mean having all the same hobbies, but it might mean having the same religion or the same ethical system or the same political beliefs. Might mean that. We need to have somebody that we feel like they're on our team, that they're supportive, that when we have hard times, they don't say, well, you made this mistake. They say, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. What can I do to help make it better?
Right.
And if you say, I just need you to listen, they'll just listen.
Yeah.
And I know right now there's some women there thinking, yeah, I've never met a man like that. You probably have. You've probably met a lot of them. And research would indicate that you probably thought they were boring.
Could be. Yes. Yeah.
Research would indicate you probably thought they were boring. I would encourage everybody out there to learn something about attachment style. I have a book that's just about attachment style, because a lot of us who struggle to find love, where it's happened again and again that we've been disappointed, a lot of us are we don't have a secure attachment style. And that unfortunately makes us vulnerable to other people who don't have a secure style. If we ourselves do not have a secure style, we need, as an absolute requirement, someone who has a secure style. So learning what that looks like, learning that that's not boring. We've just confused drama with love.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to this. I help people drill down and identify what they idiosyncratically want, which that sounds like an insult. It's not. What I mean is what they have to have that maybe most people don't.
Right.
Right.
You know, one thing I need,
What?
I found this out through a relationship that I had. And it was, I need someone that knows how to laugh and makes me laugh.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. After leaving my marriage, which laughter had long since left, I was, the first time I had a gut laugh, it was like a miracle. Just so wonderful to experience again. I'd forgotten. And it was just the power of that was unbelievable. So
my adored partner makes me laugh so hard that the tears run down my legs, is how I put it.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
And I understand what you are talking about. There's a pervasive sense of goodwill. These are the kind of things I help people identify. And there are a couple different ways to identify this. So let's just walk through a couple of them.
Yeah.
One of them is, think about the things in your past relationship or relationships that you treasured. Because even if it ended, it began because there were some things that worked. So think about the things that you really want to replicate in your future and write those down. Also think about the things that you really do not want again and write those down.
Yes.
Past relationships are an important guide. If you think, oh, I just could never live with this again, write that down.
Yes. Okay.
Write down, have a fantasy where you fantasize about absolutely everything about this person that you would want, as well as the things that are deal breakers. You do not want this. Write it all down. And I have worked with a lot of people who are afraid to do this because they feel like they're asking for too much. Write it all down anyway. We're not going to require all this, but if you don't even ask the universe for it, what are the odds you're going to get it? If you don't even commit it to paper, what are the odds it will show up?
Yeah.
Write it all down. I have stuff on my list like, he likes guacamole. I mean, I don't really care if a guy likes guacamole, but if I'm going to put everything on there, I'm going to put that on there too. You should have really personal stuff on there, like, how often do you like to have sex? What kind of sex do you like to have? What kind of lover is this guy?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of women say, I'm sorry if this offends delicate sensibilities out there, but I've had a lot of women say they haven't had partners who gave them enough oral sex. They want more of that. They want a partner who happily, joyfully does that. He doesn't act like it's a huge chore or it's just for your birthday.
Which only comes once a year.
Exactly. Which means maybe you only come once a year, which is not okay. So
yes.
So put it on there. I know this may be embarrassing to think about for some people, but we're not publishing this in the Times.
Yeah.
This is just a list. You're never going to show anybody else this list. Unless you're working with me, in which case, yeah, you'll show me, but we'll have a good enough rapport by then that it won't be embarrassing.
Right.
So everything goes on the list. That's pass number one. Pass number two is take everything that you put on the list. And if you see stuff that's framed negatively, turn it into what you do want instead of what you don't want. So let's say you don't want somebody who is dour and miserable. Okay. And I agree. No, we don't want somebody who's dour and miserable. But what do you want? Well, when you think about it, maybe you want somebody who's optimistic. Maybe you want somebody who's upbeat. Maybe you want somebody who had a happy childhood. Maybe you want somebody who is brimming with self-confidence. Maybe you want somebody who has had hard times in his past and he has moved through and past them.
Yeah.
Maybe you want somebody who has a sense of fun and a spark of joy in his heart. Notice how good it feels when you turn it around and put it in the framework of what you do want. In my case, originally, my most recent list, and I encourage you to keep this on a computer, both so nobody else stumbles across it and so that you can change and update your list. It's so much easier to do this exercise on a computer.
Yeah.
So my original list said, I don't want somebody who drinks too much. I don't want somebody who does drugs of any kind. Excuse me. I just a little hiccup there. I thought, okay, well, what do you want, Dwayna? Well, what I want is someone who drinks up to 2 drinks up to 5 times a year, which is to say he almost never drinks.
Right. Yeah.
I want somebody who abstains from all other forms of drug and alcohol use. And I want somebody who's high on life. I am high on life. I do not require a single other thing to get me high. And I want my match. And here's the thing. If you go through your list, as I encourage you to do, and you put everything into positive terms of what you do want instead of what you don't, and then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to put a check mark next to everything that actually describes you.
Okay.
I will bet that you are asking for someone highly similar to yourself. And here's what we know for sure from science. The more similar you are to your future partner, the more likely you are to date, the more likely you are to continue dating, the more likely you are to fall deeply in love, the more likely you are to become engaged, the more likely you are to get married, the more likely you are to stay happily married for a lifetime. People tend to ask for too little rather than too much, and this list frees you from that.
Right.
It allows you to look for someone highly similar. If you are an amazing person, why don't you deserve somebody amazing? And if your answer to that is, well, there aren't any men who are amazing, I have news for you. Right now, there is some guy out there who is like you, who is wondering where in the hell you are. And if you are not out there looking for him, you are depriving him of happiness.
Yeah.
When I got out there on New Year's Eve, I was filled with this sense that there was someone on New Year's Eve who had been looking for a while, who was thinking, where is she? I knew that I was not going to settle for someone who wasn't going to bring just as much happiness and joy to my life as I was going to bring to his. And I knew he was out there looking. I knew it. How did I know it? Because science, and because I've been doing what I do for 20 years with clients. I knew. I didn't just guess, I knew. And my sweetie pie said, anybody you tell that you met me in 7 days, I want you to tell them it took me 3.5 years.
Oh.
He was out there looking for 3.5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
It's simply not true that good men aren't out there. But if you're not out there, maybe you've heard this joke before. There was this fella who he went to church every Sunday and he prayed he would win the lottery. Have you heard this one?
No.
Every Sunday he prayed he would win the lottery. And every week he didn't win the lottery. And finally he went to his minister and he said, God is not listening. Every week I pray. Every week I get the same answer, no. And so the next week the minister said, Bob, your prayer has been answered. God has told me what you need to do. And Bob says, what? And the minister says, buy a lottery ticket.
Yes. It's so
If
true.
you are not actively looking, you're doing what Bob did. waiting for some enchanted evening, hoping the right person just shows up, that is not actually applying yourself. That might have worked in high school because you were surrounded by single available people. It's not going to work now. You're going to have to actually make your list and then make yourself stick to your list. So next part of this list, after you've made sure that you're actually asking for somebody like you, which is totally fair, you're going to divide this list into what you must have and what you would like to have.
Yeah.
The must-haves need to be things, and here's your standard for a must-have. It's a high bar. If this person had absolutely everything else on your list, but they lacked this one thing, would it be a deal breaker? If the answer is yes, that's a must-have. If the answer is no, that's a want. I want you to divide your list into must-haves and wants. The standard for the must-have is a very high bar. The standard is, if this person had 100% of my list, accepting this one thing, would I have to kick him to the curb because it's actually a deal breaker? In the absence of a yes, if you wouldn't kick him to the curb because it's not actually a deal breaker, you're going to put that on the wants. And I have people say, oh, but I really, 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 really want a man who's 6 feet tall. I understand that. But if he had 100% of everything else you're looking for and not that, would you actually get rid of a guy who's not 6 feet tall? True. I hope and pray the answer is no, because that's super superficial and it's statistically unlikely.
And the older we get, we shrink.
Well, we do.
Yes. So, but I see your point. I see that, if he had all those if he laughed and he was honorable and respectful, and those are some really good qualities.
Yes. Now, there are some things that people tend not to put on their must-have list, which I want you to put there. Oh. Kindness, no matter what kind of day he's had, is a must-have. Whether or not you consider it a must-have, scientifically, it is. Your relationship will not be one worth having if you do not insist on this.
Right.
Respectfulness, again. Now, and by the way, kindness, respectfulness, it's not just what kind of day he's having. It's no matter who he is speaking about. A question you should ask, preferably on the phone, before you even have a date is, if your ex were here right now, what would she say was the reason things didn't work out?
Oh,
yeah,
that's an interesting question.
Yes, and you're not just listening for what he says, although you are definitely listening for that. You are listening for how he says it.
Yeah.
How does he say it? I had a guy who actually said the following thing to a woman that I know. He said, well, 6 months in, I found out that she thought we were having an open relationship. I thought we were exclusive and she didn't. Oh. Now, so far, so good, because that's a reasonable reason to break up. And he's framed that very respectfully. But unfortunately, then he kept talking.
Oh.
Yeah. And I want you to do the look, lean, and listen. Really listen. Give them enough rope to hang themselves or not. You are looking for kind, respectful behavior, and you will get it when you listen to them talk about their exes. I'm not just talking about they're nice to you. They need to be respectful even when somebody has devastated them. I told you why my marriages didn't work out. Did I call these men names? Did I say anything horrible about their character? No. I was able to say my truth in a way that did not degrade or demean or humiliate anyone. This is what you are looking for. But this man kept talking and he said, yeah, she was a total whore. I'm sorry. You need to never see him again.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. It is one thing that his feelings were hurt. It is another thing for him to degrade her that way.
Yeah.
Problems with this. Some women would agree with his assessment. Therefore, they are not being kind or respectful, and they're not likely to get someone kind or respectful. If this is an issue for you, it's going to be really important to examine that.
Yes.
But the bigger issue that I see is not that women aren't kind and respectful. It's that women don't believe that they really deserve someone who is, and they give men a pass.
Mm-hmm.
The woman who was seeing that man, I said, he's told you everything he needs to tell you with that one statement. Please never see him again. But she saw him for several more months, and they broke up because he wasn't kind or respectful. People can't maintain the facade for very long. And in fact, the way they talk about other people tells you a lot. So those are two deal breaker standards. If they show you in any way, remember, people lead with the healthy side of themselves.
Yes.
If they show you degradation about someone else when you haven't even met them yet, or you have met them and it's an early date, move on. I promise you, this person is not capable of kind, respectful behavior going forward. Why would you give up the awesome life you have now for someone who's going to make you less happy? They just told you they're going to make you less happy. This is what I'm talking about. If you get somebody kind and respectful who has all your other deal makers, all your other must-haves, you're going to be happy with that person.
Mm-hmm.
If things change later on, at least when you leave them, it will be with a history of having been respectfully and cherished. When Vic and I parted ways, we still treated each other with kindness and respect. We were not bitter and resentful.
Nice.
A relationship ending doesn't have to be devastating, but it will be if you're with somebody who degraded you.
Yeah.
So these are absolute deal breakers if you don't have them. Also, you need to have on there, they have a secure attachment style. Life is too short, no matter what your own style is, life's too short to spend it with somebody who isn't secure. People who are secure tend to automatically treat you with kindness and respect. They also value sexual faithfulness. They value sex as an emotional expression rather than just getting some. They tend to value commitment. They tend to value cherishing their partner. When you have a problem and you say, here's what I need, they say, oh, honey, I'm going to do that for you, instead of making you feel needy, clingy, or wrong. They have the goods. Insist on it. Learn everything you can about that and insist on a part. And when somebody shows you they're not, and there are wonderful online tests that will tell you whether or not they have it quickly, then you stop seeing them. Notice that I'm encouraging you not to just have this list, but to find out quickly, not years from now, whether or not they have it. This person is a bug under the microscope of your love life for the first 3 to 6 months you are dating them. And if you find out they do not have any of your must-haves, you must not. You've got to move on right then. See, you're not going to get devastated if that's your way of doing things.
Right.
You're going to wind up with somebody really good. And if it doesn't work out later on, because none of us has the crystal ball that really tells us the future, well, then it didn't work out. But at least you had a great time because you were being cherished while you were there.
Yeah.
You also need to require someone who wants the same kind of relationship you do. If you know you never want to get married again, don't be with somebody who knows he does. If you know that you do want to get married again, don't be with somebody who says, I would never, ever, ever do that.
Yeah. Right. Now, of all of the 7 books that you've written, which one would you start with? Where is a good starting place? I mean, certainly some of these other basics that you shared with us about, you haven't shared about the abuse, but like the attachment style seems pretty important. I mean, is there an order? And then you also talk about writing the profile, but where is the list that you just went through, our wants and our don't wants?
I would recommend that if somebody just wants like a 30,000 foot view of what are the mating myths, you know, because we all need some mental floss going into this. There's stuff we've learned that just ain't so.
Right.
What are the mating myths? What's some of the self-work that I need to do?
Yes.
To get into this headspace and to prepare for success.
Yes.
And part of that preparation is acknowledging that success is likely if you do things differently. It's likely. If you want to get the big view of how do I date effectively and how do I grieve and move on if it doesn't work out? And also, how do I break up if I discover that somebody isn't it? Of course, you will sometimes discover that somebody isn't what you really have to have.
Right.
Read my first book, Love Factually, 10 Proven Steps from I Wish to I Do.
Yeah.
If you have children, I urge you to read my second full-length book, Love Factually. I'm blanking on the subtitle of Love Factually for Single Parents and Those Dating Them.
Well, is
I
this
urge you
children
to,
in the home or
I
children
know,
in
I
the
urge you, it is children in the home, but you know, my son's out of the house and I'm still a single parent. I will tell you,
Yes.
in anticipation of my own dating success, I reread both of my books, my full-length books, and I made deals with myself. Those books, especially the single parents book, it's not just a reprisal of the first book. It's the stuff that didn't fit in the first book. So I actually would like everyone to read that second book as well, because yeah, it has a lot of single parent stuff in there, but everything in it could also be useful to somebody who doesn't have children at all. And if you're a single parent, you're a single parent for the rest of your life, even if you remarry. If you're not with the parent of the co-parent of these children, this other person is not going to see your children the same way that you do. And there's going to be stuff that has to be worked out consequent to that. And the second book is vital for that reason. But it's vital to everyone, actually, because it's got so much stuff that's not in the first book. Look, publishers don't let you publish 1,000 pages. They make you, so the second book has tons of stuff that's helpful for absolutely everyone. Like, what do you do if all they do is text? How do you move things to a phone call?
Oh, yes.
What kind of pictures do I need to take? How do I actually write my dating profile? Because the first book alludes to a bunch of that stuff, but it doesn't drill down nearly as deep as I go in the second book.
I see. Okay.
So I would recommend those books.
Okay.
Really, both of them. And then, I answer all my email for free. If somebody thinks, oh, I don't know if I want to work with her, I'm kind of curious. Or if they think, I've got a really specific question I'd like an answer to, I answer all my email for free.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I am happy. And my websites, I've got 2 different websites. And lovefactually.co will give you free content, and it has a get coaching tab, which takes you to my other website. Has tons of free stuff there, tons of free articles. It's got a link to every podcast I've ever done in my life, which is, I think, like now 3 continual days worth of listening. So you're going to have access to all this free stuff, and you can send me a note and I will answer it for free. So get in touch.
Yes. Awesome. Oh my gosh, you have given us so information. I'm reeling here from all this good information. And I guess I'll go get Love Factually for sure, and start there. And since I am a single now, yes, I'll get that too. Yeah.
I am so happy to hear that. I really, the most rewarding part of my life, and this was just a hobby, and then people started hiring me.
Oh, really?
I was a college professor. Yeah, this wasn't what I was doing. And then it became my full-time thing. I love getting Christmas cards and holiday cards of all kinds, and letters and phone calls, and from people who are now happily partnered. I recently heard from a woman who is almost 70 who has love for the first time, healthy, happy love, the first time in her life.
Yeah.
She says it's the best sex of her life. She's the happiest she's ever been. I had a phone call last New Year's Eve. This man I had worked with had asked if I could FaceTime with him. He had despaired of ever finding anybody that would satisfy what he considered an impossibly high standard. And he was calling me with his fiance to show me her ring and to say thank you. I have a great life because my life is about bringing love into the world. And love is the realistic option. If you do it differently, you get different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it makes our whole lives better when we have it. That's what I want for everybody listening.
Yes. I mean, this whole program is just full of opportunity and promise. Actually, that's what you've given us today. An open door. So I love that you've been able to give that to my listeners. And for you out there listening, again, your most important thing is to get to know yourself, but to share this with somebody. I can promise you, you have at least 5 friends that could listen and benefit from today's show, because Dwayna has just offered us so many good ideas and hope. So don't keep feeding yourself that you're doing okay, you're not risking anything. You can change that and you can have love. So I can't say enough about how wonderful this has been, how exciting it's been, and how I do know that my listeners will share this. That's what they do. They reach out to their friends to support. So anyway, this week, I hope you have a great week. Reflect on what you've heard today, because there's so much promise and excitement here. Thank you for being here. I will look forward to seeing you next week, or at least hearing from you, knowing you're out there. I know you're out there all the time, and I love knowing that you're there. But anyway, I am saying goodbye for now, and I hope you have an awesome week. Thank you for being here today.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.